Namaste. I'm Vidya.
And I'm Ada.
Welcome to my channel where we dive into ideas, sometimes in awe, sometimes in confusion, but always with too many thoughts. Today we're stepping into the world of poetry, pain, and endless grace with Umrao Jaan, the 1981 classic, directed by Muzaffar Ali, starring the one and only Rekha alongside Nazruddin Shah, Farooq Sheikh, Prema Narayan, and Raj Babbar. This is a Bollywood period drama spanning about 145 minutes, and we watched it last night for the first time.
Yeah. So it's a story about a young girl stolen from her home and is forced into the world of courtesans, where she must navigate love, loss, and longing, all while wrapped in the most elegant silk you have ever seen.
Now, if you're wondering, was this part of a franchise? No, but it was based on a novel titled Umrao Jaan Ada by Mirza Hadi Ruswa, which was actually one of the first Urdu novels originally published in 1899. And was this the only adaptation?
Nope, actually there was a 2000 remake starring none other than Aishwarya Rai. But let's just say nothing matches the 1981 version.
True. And we haven't even watched the 2006 version and we already know nothing can compare to this.
Nothing will.
Right, so the story follows Amiran, a little girl kidnapped from her home and sold to a kotha in Lucknow, where she is renamed Umrao Jaan. Under the strict yet refined eye of Khanum Sahib, she transforms into a celebrated courtesan, singing, dancing, and stealing hearts. But while she is admired by many, she longs for something beyond the lavish walls of her gilded cage. Naturally, the film is a slow, poetic unraveling of her life, her romances, betrayals, heartbreaks, and the bittersweet reality of being a woman who can entertain men but can never truly belong to them.
And this woman, the performances and acting are massively impressive. Rekha as Umrao Jaan is a dream.
Absolutely. I think one of the only words to describe that would be grace, pure grace. And because she doesn't just play Umrao Jaan, I think she becomes her. She embodies that character so well.
Yeah, and the way she dances, the way she moves, it's like poetry in motion.
Yeah, even when she's just sitting there, her eyes are still doing the acting, right?
I mean, in Aankhon Ki Masti ke, we are actually diwane.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And that deep, melancholic voice, that pain, beautiful.
Cannot compare, yeah. And I think Farooq Sheikh as Nawab Sultan, also the sweet, soft, morally questionable love interest. You know, he loves Umrao Jaan, but like most men in period dramas, he's kind of useless when it comes to actually getting her or doing something about it. But at least he looks at her like she's the moon. I mean, the poetic lines, it's like it had us, in awe, like, wow, men don't say that anymore.
Yeah, we were completely talking about generation, where have we come from?
Yeah.
From something like इस तस्वीर को मेरी आँखों में बसा दो to you where you at.
Yeah. And Nazruddin Shah, of course, classic. Honestly, he's such a legend. And in the movie, I think he plays a man who's charming but also self-serving, which I think every quote has that one guy who's always profiting off women's miseries, and I think he does justice to the character.
True.
Some of the major themes explored, I think very initially, like right in the beginning of the movie, something I noticed was beauty standards. I mean, even when you think about it from the context of like 1981 to even now, it's very relevant, because they say that, the darker skinned girl, she's worth less than the fairer girl, which the darker skinned girl, I think at that time was Rekha. But yeah, so she's worth like 150 rupees, while the other girl is worth, I think, 200 rupees, which I think also is a very subtle observation.
And yes, it's actually painful to think how women's beauty was brought down to numbers, and it is very messed up. But another thing was patriarchy, and Umrao Jaan's journey is the ultimate proof that a woman's worth in society is dictated by men. Whether they want to own her, love her, discard her when convenient, or dictated by men.
Yeah, and I think the social hypocrisy there is so strong because, society condemns courtesans but is also entertained by them, which I don't think will change, but it's also so sad and infuriating at the same time.
And when we talk about Umrao Jaan and the Nawab Sultan, the unattainable love, it feels like a sigh. It's just there, but it's not fully realized. There's angst.
Yeah.
So that's a strong theme.
I think when it comes to the cinematography and the symbolism and the cinematic elements, I think something that really stuck with me was the lighting, the use of lighting, because I noticed that there was a lot of a spotlight effect and selective focus in most of the film, to be honest, because whenever anything was in focus, the background was rarely visible, and I think there's a lot of metaphorical analysis you can do there as well, in the way that it mimics the stage-like world of a courtesan, where when they're in the spotlight they are, but then otherwise the rest of their life, their personal life is just completely, they're so invisible to the rest of the world that way.
Yeah, this whole stage-like presence of just a focus on just Umrao Jaan reflects that isolation in the world.
Right.
Yeah,
but I think it was played with very well, the lighting. Especially if you think of 1981 lighting, the resources then versus the resources now are completely different. But yeah, and also I think the costumes, they were regal but muted color palettes. So a lot of golds, a lot of whites, and it was very visually appealing as well to watch.
Yeah, and then if we just talk about the music, we would go on and on. Just beautiful numbers there. Dil cheez kya hai, in aankhon ki masti ke.
Yeah. I mean, in Aankhon Ki Masti, I did not even know it was from this movie because I am uncultured like that. But it was beautiful. I mean, it's a long song, but we could not get our eyes off of it. We were hooked to it because Rekha is just magic in that moment.
Yeah, and the exploration of Umrao Jaan as a poet, not just as a courtesan, but she was making her own art and using these ghazals as storytelling is just beautiful. It's just no other word to it.
Yeah, and I think one of the first observations we made was that it does not feel slow paced, because we thought, it's a 3-hour movie, how are we going to get through this? But it does not feel slow paced. I think the pacing feels very deliberate and very very structured, in that you're not bored at all, and it takes you on a ride, I think. Yeah. And the transition from young Amiran to when she grows up to Umrao Jaan, I think that was very beautifully done, because I remember that it was done through the music, her being taught music and her being taught dancing, and she just grows up like that dancing, and I think that was a very, very, very seamless transition.
Yeah, so that growth is very organic. It did not feel very rushed. So it gives the audience the time to see her gradual transformation.
Yeah.
Which just takes you through it very seamlessly.
Yeah, no jarring jumps or anything. No cuts, yeah. So, and I also think that the film didn't rush to establish her as a very established courtesan. I think it took its time with a few minutes, and it helped us connect with the character more as well. And the ghazals, again, speaking of the ghazals, composed by Khayyam and sung by Asha Bhosle, they're so beautiful, and the lyrics feel like poetry, and they honestly cannot make music like that anymore. Yeah. Quickly, speaking of the strengths, I think it's obviously an aesthetic masterpiece. It is a musical masterpiece as well, and Rekha, she is the moment.
Yeah, and which brings us to the weaknesses. Some might say that it's a very slow-paced movie, but that's the charm of period dramas. And the male character Nawab Sultan's character could have had more depth.
Yeah. From what I've read of it, I think there are similar themes, both about courtesans trapped in their worlds, and I think Pakiza is more dreamlike, but Umrao Jaan feels grounded and more real, and it doesn't romanticize the tragedy. It's just plain story.
And so what's your final verdict?
Do we recommend it?
Actually, 100%. It depends on what you generally like. If you're into poetry, classic music, slow burn, angst, I think Umrao Jaan is a film you should definitely watch.
Yeah, and if you're into action-packed plots, then maybe not, obviously. But if you're looking for a period drama, a Bollywood period drama that will have you hooked right from the beginning and that will take you right back to the regal age, I think you should definitely give this a watch. Or either way, just watch it for Rekha. Honestly,
Beauty.
She's a whole
Beauty.
experience. Yeah. And I think that was a wrap on our movie review. A beautiful movie. Cannot wait to watch more such cinema. More Bollywood period dramas. Honestly, really slept on, I think, at least by me. Yeah, I think that's a wrap. And now, if you'll excuse us, we have more stories to unravel.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Now, if you're wondering, was this movie part of a franchise? No, but it was based on a book titled Umrao Jaan Ada by Mirza Hadi Ruswa, and it is actually considered one of the first Urdu novels originally published in 1899. And was this the only adaptation? No, it wasn't. I mean,
Okay, let's do this part.
Because
Can we do this?
From now, if you're wondering.
No, there was a 2000. Okay, I'll say that last line.
Yeah. Now, if you're okay.
And another theme explored is the patriarchy, and it explored how Umrao Jaan. Another theme explored is patriarchy. How are you gonna cut that?
I wasn't going to, but now I have to.
Okay.
Bloopers.
Yeah.